Hello everyone, I'm Yum. Welcome to the Candlelight Tales channel. Here on this channel, I share captivating novels and stories. If you enjoy reading or listening to stories, you're very welcome here. And if you like my content, please remember to subscribe, share, and give it a like. Now, without further delay, let's dive into today's story. In the previous episode, Gudapeng, Falatsi, Geli, Dean, Wesley, and Bai Su left the sunless, desolate Earth aboard a spaceship. After 5 months of travel, they finally discovered a planet. The inhabitants called themselves the Eternal Star People. They possessed a highly advanced civilization and technology. After 7.6 billion years of evolution, they had shed their physical forms, existing only as thought, able to travel freely at the speed of radio waves. They didn't speak, but communicated directly via brainwaves. Yet despite their technological prowess, even they knew little about the mysterious cosmic shockwave. Encountering one again to return to their own era seemed nearly impossible. So the travelers left Eternal Star and resumed their long space drift. Food and supplies weren't a problem, but human psychology was. Gudapeng, Falatsi, Geli, and Dean began showing signs of instability. One grew increasingly irritable. Another hid without reason. One began researching cryogenic freezing to extend life. Another considered building a robot and transferring their consciousness into it. Wesley and Bai Su remained the most stable, perhaps because they had each other for support. They even resolved that if they couldn't return to their own time, they would still live on together. One day, while walking the corridor, Wesley and Bai Su heard Gudapeng's strange cry through the intercom. They rushed to the control room. The room was flooded with light. Outside the window, they saw an enormous, wide band of light. Geli rushed in and began working at the computer. After endless drifting through deep blue space, encountering this light band was exhilarating. Suddenly, the spaceship began to shake violently. Everyone felt it being pulled forward by an unknown force. At an incredible speed. When the shaking stopped, excitement lit up every face. They saw stars again, countless stars. Geli looked at the screen and laughed. Isn't this the free constellation? Falatsi raised his arms. We're back. That light band brought us back. Though they had returned to the galaxy, the journey home was still far from over. Wesley and Bai Su didn't recognize the free constellation, likely a discovery made with more advanced instruments in the future. Wesley guessed from the others' silence that they were still far from Earth. Still, seeing stars again, rather than endless blue, rekindled hope. Eventually, the long-awaited oscillation arrived. It struck suddenly. Everyone was thrown into the air, colliding with each other. When it stopped, Wesley heard cheers. Looking out the window, they saw the long-lost sun. Gudapeng adjusted the long-range camera. After an hour, Earth appeared on the screen. Everyone was ecstatic. Geli calculated that in 71 hours, they could land on Earth. But which Earth? The Earth of 1964? 2064? Or another year entirely? At that moment, the 3 generations aboard the ship each had different hopes. One generation's success would mean disappointment for the others. If it wasn't their era, would they still land, or continue drifting? As the spaceship neared Earth, its surface became clearer. When they saw a large ocean liner, Wesley and Bai Su cried out in joy. Without a doubt. It was their era. They recognized the ship. It was the largest passenger liner of their time. Gudapeng, Falatsi, Geli, and Dean looked grim. Wesley understood their disappointment. Gudapeng was silent for a long time before saying, "You can go home. But our space wandering hasn't ended." Wesley said, "If you come to Earth, and Bai Su and I keep your identity secret, no one will know. With your knowledge, you'd be highly respected." No one responded. After a long pause, Gudapeng said, "No. We don't belong to your era. You go. Use the small shuttle, it'll get you through the atmosphere safely. We'll continue wandering until we find our time." Bai Su said, "But you may never find it." Gudapeng nodded, "Yes. But we can't live in a time that isn't ours, like freshwater fish in the sea." Bai Su sighed. She and Wesley walked over and shook hands with each of them. No words, just firm handshakes. Everyone knew this was goodbye forever. Wesley and Bai Su boarded the shuttle and sped toward Earth. They landed in the sea, arriving at the island where the plane crash had occurred. They returned to 1964, 4 days after the crash. Wesley always wished Gudapeng and the others could return to their time. But one day, he read a report that made him doubt their fate. The report said, in May 1864, a massive meteorite, estimated at 25 tons, fell in southern France. While meteorite falls aren't unusual, this one was strange. Analysis showed it was a pure alloy. A renowned astrobiologist found traces of early life, protein structures similar to human biology. His conclusion: the meteorite once carried life. This reminded Wesley of the spaceship. Could it have drifted for years, its crew dead, until a cosmic shockwave flung it to 1864? With no one to control it, it crashed and was mistaken for a meteorite? Wesley suspected this because the timing matched. He knew the oscillation's time shifts occurred in 100-year intervals. 1864 was exactly 100 years before 1964. And history never mentioned Gudapeng again. Perhaps this was the most reasonable explanation. Let's begin our reflection session. I'll start by sharing a few questions and my thoughts on them. I'd be delighted to read your reflections too, just drop them in the comments. 1. Which part of the story left the deepest impression on you? For me, it was the sunless Earth, like the movie The Day After Tomorrow, frozen and irradiated. The author built it up well, even showing footage of the sun's surface before the apocalypse. The explosion appeared man-made, disrupting planetary orbits and causing collisions. If filmed, it would be spectacular. Gudapeng once wanted to harness solar energy to control Earth. Seeing the sun explode, he admitted he had considered similar experiments. If not for the cosmic shockwave, the apocalypse might have happened in 2064. 2064 was spared, but in 2464, another ambitious figure tried again. It seems Earth's end is inevitable. 2. How do you evaluate Gudapeng? He's a brilliant, ambitious man, not driven by greed, but by a desire for recognition and respect. He wants others to admire his capabilities. Yet he's also reflective. He eventually gave up his ambitions and led the group through many adventures. He represents those with talent but no opportunity, yearning to prove themselves, feeling out of sync with their time. Later, he led the group out of the desolate Earth. He wasn't all bad. Of course, if he hadn't selfishly altered the flight path, none of this would have happened. What's your view of Gudapeng? Do you know anyone like him? 3. Do you envy the Eternal Star people's way of life? In the previous story The Living Figurines, Emperor Qin Shi Huang sought immortality, causing test subjects to sleep from the Qin dynasty to the present. Eternal Star people, however, exist only as thought, no bodies. The author contrasts them with the Earth people, who turned from peace to warfare and resource battles. Eternal Star people are peaceful, unthreatened, and unthreatening. They shed all but their minds, no consumption, no desires. They transcend material needs and suffering. But they also lose the joys of food, travel, and sensation. Personally, I'm not ready for that kind of existence. What do you think? 4. If you were Gudapeng and the others, would you land in 1964 or keep drifting? It's a tough choice. Cosmic oscillations are rare. Continued drifting might never return you to your time. But staying in a different era might feel alienating. If it were me, I'd live in 1964 for a few years and see if I could adapt. Of course, they may have loved ones in their own time, making their return urgent. But in the end, fate is unpredictable. Follow your heart. Even if you fail, you won't regret trying. What do you think? Please feel free to share. If you enjoy my channel, remember to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Thank you all for your support. Goodbye.